Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to my channel, Wisconsin Hugs. My name is Tony Grillo. Um, I do talk about a lot of different things on my channel. I don't have a specific niche, which is probably the wrong way of doing a YouTube channel. I know that the very successful ones, they specialize in one particular niche or genre or whatever you want to say. Like they'll do true crime, or they'll do Hollywood gossip, or they will do sports, or UFOs, ghosts, stuff like that. I tend to, I don't know, share personal stories. I will sometimes give opinions about things, and I tend to talk about things that I find interesting. And so, yeah, that's how I do my channel. And today, I don't know, for some reason, it's just been weighing heavy on my heart. It's about Israel. And, it's hard for me to even know where to start on this one. But, I'm seeing it on college campuses, on the videos, that I've seen from college campuses. And, we got all these young, educated people that are out there protesting Israel. And I honestly believe these kids have been led the wrong path by our educators, by our leaders, by our teachers, by our by my generation, even. If history hasn't taught us anything, this is the one thing that everybody should know if you study history, is that you don't fuck with Israel. That's just what you don't do. Okay? If history has taught you anything, and most of these people, I don't think, know any history about Israel. And there's a reason for it. It's because Israel is the apple of God's eye. Okay? That's just period. The Bible, God shows proof of his existence and his love through to all of us, because he created all of us, but he shows it through the people of Israel. People of Israel are his people. Bottom line, yes, has Israel been punished? Yeah, they've gone through a history where they've been, when the King Nebuchadnezzar conquered them in 586 BC and almost wiped them out, sent them away as slaves, chose the best ones, and marched them off in chains, and then, exactly 586 years later, this is what's crazy about God's world. Exactly 586 years later, Caesar rolled in there, and that was at 70 AD. Okay, 70 AD, exactly 586 years later. He came in there. Caesar did, and the Romans, and they conquered Israel again and burnt down the second temple. King Nebuchadnezzar burnt down the first temple. The Romans burnt down, exactly 586 years later, the second temple. And if you know anything about prophecy, their Revelation says that there's going to be a third temple, which hasn't been built yet. And if any of you know anything about Bible prophecy, if you've ever looked at the book of Daniel, Bible prophecy is real. It's the proof that God is real. It's proof that the things that are said in the Bible, that is coming, that the prophets that wrote those things, they have a divine source that's telling them the information. And if a lot of you people out there, you don't believe that, that's fine. You don't have to believe it. I'm not forcing you to believe it. I'm not holding a sword to your head and saying you either believe in Allah or I'm going to cut your head off. No, I'm not telling you that at all. I'm telling you to do your research and look and find out for yourself. I was a skeptic too. I was a skeptic big time, and I thought a lot of it was all nonsense. What made me a believer was the fact that I had a dream one time where an angel came to me, and it was at the lowest point in my life. The mother of my children said, my twin boys, they were babies, she said she wanted to marry another man and didn't want me around anymore. She had left, packed up her bags, left, and I thought, that's it. I'm not going to be a father to these kids. We're not going to be a family. And it was very devastating to me. I was like 21 years old. I just finished college and all that. And, I hadn't been accustomed to failure. It was like one of my biggest failures ever. I got my degree. I'd even played college hockey. I was, I thought, I can conquer anything I do. And then I had suffered failure. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life at that point, because everything I've been doing, I was working for us, for our family. So anyways, I was depressed, sad, and lost, and I had a dream, and this angel appeared. It was a female angel, which it was really crazy because I can remember this dream like it happened. It was because it was so odd and so weird. I never had a dream about an angel before coming to me. Never seen one, anything. This angel came to me, and what was interesting about this angel is she had blonde hair, and she not really blonde. It was more like, I can't say blonde. It was like a bright light. Like she was I had to shield my eyes just to see her, look at her, but I could tell she was really beautiful. I thought she was gorgeous. And she said, "Hey, Tony, what's troubling you?" And I was like, oh my God, I wanted to bend down on my knees. I remember I wanted to go down on my knees, but then I remembered in the Bible it says you're not supposed to worship angels. You only worship God, because the angels, every time that's the first response that these people do, the angels always say, get up, and so anyways, I didn't bow, I didn't go down on my knees, but that was the initial reaction I wanted. And then I had this thought in my head, like, man, she is gorgeous, and I had erotic feelings, and I thought about what would it be like to, bone her or whatever, and the angel looked at me, or started laughing, and all of a sudden I was shocked because I realized she could read my mind. She knew exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, oh my God, she can read my mind. And then she stopped laughing because she knew I knew that she could read my mind. And so then I was so embarrassed, because, of what was going on in my head, and she saw it, but I told her everything I was going on. How depressed I was about everything. And then I remembered watching the movie Cocoon, The Return. And in that movie, Steve Guttenberg he kisses that alien lady goodbye, and she flies off in her spaceship. She kisses him, and she gives him a vision of the woman he's going to marry, and she had a birthmark on the back of her neck. And then she flies off in her ship, and sure enough, it was the girl from Friends, the one that was in the Bruce Springsteen video. I forgot her name. Courtney Cox. It was Courtney Cox, and he's talking to her. They're on the beach, they're talking, and then Courtney turns around, and there's the birthmark, the same one he had in his vision. And he goes, "Hey, you want to get some coffee?" And she's like, "Sure." And that's how the movie ends. Okay, they go off and they get coffee together, and I thought, what a cute ending, for that movie. So I remembered that movie because I had watched it that night before I had the weird dream, and so because it made me smile, and so anyways, the angel said, "Yeah, sure, you're gonna meet that one." Because I said, "Am I ever gonna meet that one? Can you tell me who she is?" And she goes, "Yeah, can you give me a clue?" I said, because she wasn't going to tell me exactly who it was. I said, "Well, can you give me a clue?" you know? And then she goes, yeah, sure, I can give you a clue. You know, she liked that. She liked giving the clue. So she goes, the first letter in her name will be identical to the first letter in your name. And her name will have the same number of letters as your name will have. And I said, oh, okay, you know, and then she goes, there's more, you know. She goes, the middle name, her middle name will be the mirror reflection of your middle name, and it will also, or her middle initial will be the mirror reflection of your middle initial, and her middle name will also have the same number of letters as your middle name. I said, okay, cool, you know. And then I woke up and I thought, God, it is the weirdest dream I've ever had. And then I got a call, and I was asked, hey, you want to go to Arizona, with the company I was working for? And I'm like, sure, yeah, I need to get out of here because I need a change of scenery. I need to just, get my head back on straight. And, I knew the boys were going to be fine because they were with their mom. And so I thought, I just need to, I'd always figured I was going to come back, but I had to get my head on right. So I went to Arizona, and then I traveled around. My company I was with had 9 different divisions, and I went to a bunch of different states, had a whole bunch of adventures. I was in Ohio, I was in Chicago, I was actually in Waukesha, Wisconsin for a bit there. And then I was in Millbank, South Dakota. And so then anyways, I wound up back, the company went belly up, and I wound up in Wisconsin. I lived in a little town called Kleiman, and I was working for a company over there. And then I met a lady that moved in next door to me, and one thing led to another, and we wound up falling in love. And so anyways, we were writing up the wedding invitations, and this was like many years later. And I remember I used to play the name game, like when I met a girl. I met a girl named Terry one time, Teri, and thought, well, maybe her name matches up with my name, and my name is Tony, Tony, 4 letters, but our middle names didn't match up at all. I met another girl, Andrea, and and my real first name's Anthony, AA, but Andrea has 6 letters, Anthony has 7, so that didn't match up. And I played this game for a long time, and it just, I thought, you know what, this is crazy, it's never going to work, it's never going to happen, we're never going to match up. And then, like 2 years after I'd been living in Wisconsin, this was like 10 years after I had the dream, maybe not 10, I think 6 or 7 years after I had the dream, all of a sudden I met the girl, Annie, and in Kleiman. And so anyways, we're writing up the wedding invitations, and I was on the computer and I wrote Annie and Tony, and she goes, no, put our real names down. Okay, fine. So I wrote, Annetta, was her real name, and I wrote Anthony, and then all of a sudden I looked at it and I go, holy crap, Annetta, A, Anthony, A, Annetta, 7 letters, Anthony, 7 letters. I thought, wait a minute, these names match up. And the dream came back to me and all that, and I thought, no freaking way. And so I asked Annie, I said, Annie, what is your middle name? I know I'm an idiot. I didn't know her middle name, and I was going to marry her, but she goes, it's Marie, I said, Marie. I typed in Marie, Marie. Well, my middle name is Wayne. Okay, Wayne, and I typed both names in, and I'm like, holy crap, MW, they're the mirror reflections of each other. M and W, right? They're mirror reflections. The same letter flipped around. You got M and you got W, mirror reflection. And then number of letters, Marie 5 letters, Wayne 5 letters, and my face just turned pure white. I remember she walked in and she goes, you look like you've seen a ghost. I said, oh yeah, you could probably say that. Maybe I have, seen a ghost. And so from that moment on, I was like, oh my God, God is real. God is real. And things, and then I started, and then I I remember being in church, and there was a priest was talking, about making yourself useful, and so I prayed to God. I said, God, what can I do to be useful? And he goes, I want you to teach. And I'm like, wait a minute, you want me to teach? I don't know anything about the Bible. I don't know anything about religious education. I don't know anything about being a Catholic. At that time I was Catholic. And he goes, just teach from the Bible. Just that's the voice I heard. I heard this voice just say, teach from the Bible. That's all you got to do. Teach from the Bible. And so I started studying the Bible really hard. And I started to realize, because I knew God was real. And I realized that, I started finding stories about other people that had come across God in the Bible, where God came to them, either in a dream or in, or wherever, I started reading all the, stories. And then, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't nuts and I wasn't going crazy, because you hear about these people at the mental hospitals that claim they're prophets of God or they've seen God, and then they're in the mental hospital. And that's exactly what I was thinking too. I'm like, God, I hope I'm not going crazy. I hope I'm not going nuts here, because of this dream that I had like 6-7 years ago actually came true, And so I started studying those stories, and I realized, no, these people were normal people. They were, people like me, They all had their flaws. I'm nobody special, God revealed himself, his presence at that moment to make me a believer. It's probably the thing I needed to be a believer, and then he wanted me to teach. So I did. I learned the Bible as I studied it hard for like 10 years, and I taught religious ed. I did that for a long time with kids. I taught kids for a long time in class and had a great time doing it, and hopefully the kids enjoyed it. And every day I would try to come with something interesting, something, that a true story, something. And I started finding the thing about the Bible is that every day they're making discoveries. They're making discoveries that just back up everything in the Bible that says that, history-wise, as far as history, everything in the history part of it is true, and there's so much evidence out there that Jesus did exist and that Jesus was real. There's from the Shroud of Turin. I mean, I remember my very first day of class, I taught about the Shroud of Turin, and the mystery of the shroud, and how I believe, and many people believe, that that shroud actually has the image of Jesus at the moment that he was the shroud was put around him. And it's, what's interesting about that shroud is the fact that it was the tablecloth of the Last Supper. So it was the actual very fancy tablecloth that was laid out for the Last Supper when Jesus did the Last Supper with his apostles. It was probably very much like the Leonardo da Vinci picture. He had a big long table, and because this tablecloth is huge, the tablecloth is huge. And then they used that same tablecloth to wrap the shroud. It was a shroud on Jesus after he had died on the cross. They put him in the rich man's tomb. It was probably the same guy that did the supper. They put it in his tomb, put Jesus in there, and then he, of course, he I forgot what they call it, transubstantiation, where he rose and conquered death, and his body just vanished, and then he was walking around again with his apostles, and telling Thomas, see, the holes in my hands are real, I am real. And he was even hungry. He wanted to eat fish. That was the very first meal he ate after he came back 3 days later from the resurrection. So, it's going to be interesting to see the Mel Gibson movie, how Mel Gibson portrays that part of the story of Jesus, because Jesus actually went down to hell, and he brought because nobody could go to heaven until Jesus died on the cross. So everybody that had died before Jesus died on the cross, everybody was sitting in a place called Abraham's bosom. That's what they called it. There was still a line between that area and hell. Hell was there. And then Jesus went down there, and he probably, he went to hell, and maybe he brought a bunch of people up with him, people that he felt were worthy, or that, and then and then everybody else, and then he brought everybody to heaven, because at that point everybody could go to heaven. They went from Abraham's bosom to heaven. Okay, so that part of the story. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the Mel Gibson movie, how he portrays that. So, because he's doing a part 2 of the Passion. So anyways, I'm getting off topic here. I always do. But we're talking about Israel, okay? So now I know God's real, okay? And I've studied Bible history, and you don't mess with God's people. You just don't, because when you do that, you will suffer his wrath. And even in the book of Revelation, what starts the whole rapture? It's the fact that Israel gets attacked on all 4 sides of her border. God... It's when the guy that wrote the Revelation, book of Revelation, was it John? John wrote that. He was the youngest disciple. He was the only one that escaped dying on a cross. All the other apostles, from Peter died upside down on an upside down cross, And his fact is, they believe his bones, his skeleton, is actually in Rome. That they actually have his real skeleton, because it's missing its ankles. So when he had died upside down on the cross, because he felt he wasn't worthy to die the same way as Jesus, his ankles split. His body split from his ankles. So that had to be a painful death. But yeah, and then they put his body in the tomb there, and that most likely is Peter's real body that is there. Interesting that every single apostle, none of them were afraid to die, because they'd already met with Jesus, and they knew Jesus was real. Everything he said, they were real. And even Peter went so far as to say, I'm not even worthy to die the same way as Jesus died, and he went upside down. So that upside down cross actually is not a symbol of a devil, it's a symbol of Peter. So every scary Hollywood movie gets it wrong. He's got his own cross, and if you're interested in that, you can go look that up. It's like a double cross or something. It's he's got his own symbol. But anyways, you get to I'm getting off track here again, but we're getting back to Israel, okay, and the proof that God is real, all right, and Jesus is real, and everything's real, okay. And so we know throughout history that that even the Nazis, when they attacked Israel, look what happened to them. The world came at them and destroyed them. Okay, and so what's going on with Israel? What's up with Israel and Palestine? Okay, here's the thing. Israel and Palestine, everybody is descended from Abraham. Okay, Abraham, we have all descended from Abraham. We are all brothers. It doesn't matter our race. It doesn't matter our religion. It doesn't matter where we live. We are all descendants of the same genealogy. We come from Abraham. Abraham, when all the people spread out, after Abraham, Abraham had Isaac and Jacob, and then, Isaac was the happy one, because, and Abraham was, because they were so happy to have a son, and so anyways, after Isaac had also had twin boys, Jacob and Esau. Okay, Jacob they were twins, and even Abraham's wife was like, what's going on here? And an angel said, well, you have twins inside your body, and they are both fighting over the birthright, and what the birthright meant is that the land that is promised to them. Okay, now Esau came out first. Okay, and the angel did say these twins are going to be great nations. They're going to be great nations, but they're always fighting over the birthright. And so Esau, he came out first, and Jacob came out second. Okay, But Jacob, throughout his whole life, he wanted the birthright because it was really important to him. He wanted that birthright. And Esau, well, he sold his birthright for a bowl of soup or stew or whatever, goat stew. And Esau kind of tricked him, or Jacob tricked him into giving his birthright, more or less. And then when his dad was going to die, when Isaac was about ready to die, Isaac was blind. Again, Jacob pretended his brother was hairy, and so he threw on some goat stuff on him, like a goat jacket or something, and he went to get the birthright again from his father. And Isaac had no idea that he was given the birthright to Jacob instead of Esau. And so Jacob is Israel, and Jacob, his name actually means in Hebrew the deceiver, because he deceived his way, he tricked his way into getting the birthright. But God allowed him to have it, because usually God always honored the oldest son. The oldest son always got the blessings. But in this case, God saw that Jacob in his heart wanted that birthright so bad, and Esau didn't care about the birthright. He didn't care about it. So he had sold his birthright for a bowl of stew because he was hungry. So anyways, Jacob is Israel. Esau is Palestinian. Okay, he's Palestine. So what you got here is you got two, brothers, two great nations, because both of them formed two great nations, and they're fighting over the birthright. That's what's going on. They've been doing it forever, these two, and these nations have come from. But it's funny because they're brothers. Palestinians are originally, they're Jewish. They come from the Jewish ancestry. In fact, all the Arabs, and even us, even me, we all come from that lineage, from the Jewish lineage, from God. Okay, God created us. God is real. Okay, people. And so that's what's going on. And God he promised Israel that is their land, and Israel, those are his people. Okay, those are his people, and the prophecies back it up that God is real, and these are his people. And so why the heck would you want to go up against God? And that's why I'm so concerned about all these colleges, and all these smart kids are being deceived and being led the wrong way. And there's a hatred. Even my daughter, we had a discussion about it, and even she is against Israel, which really was sad to me, But as a parent, I can only throw so much at her. I got to let her figure it out on her own. I got to let her figure it out. She's got to do some investigating on her own. But she knows how I feel about it, But here's the thing about the Bible, guys. The Bible, the Old Testament has symbols throughout the entire Old Testament. Symbols of the Messiah, symbols of Jesus. There's symbols everywhere. And then the New Testament is actually preaching the gospel, is preaching the good news that the Messiah has come. So you have the Old Testament giving symbols about Jesus, and actually foretelling when Jesus is going to show up. It has a whole bunch of prophecies about what the Messiah is going to be, and who he's going to be, and when he's going to come. Okay? Daniel even predicted to the exact day when that Messiah was going to come, and it was Jesus. Okay? So let's take a quick example. In the story of Joseph, okay? We're talking about Joseph now. Joseph, not Jesus' father, the other Joseph, the first Joseph. He was the son of you had Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob is Israel. Jacob had 12 sons from 4 different wives. Okay? That's a big story in itself. All right? But the one he really wanted, the wife that he was totally in love with, she only gave him 2 sons. Okay? The first son she gave him was Joseph. He was the youngest son of the 12 sons. Okay? And Jacob loved Joseph. And Joseph itself, the name Joseph in Hebrew, means I want another child. I want another one. Because there was a competition going along between the 4 wives of who could give him the most babies. And at that time, the mother, the one that Joseph was, or not Joseph, Jacob was in love with, I think her name was it Rachel? Rachel, was it? Or, yeah, because Rachel and Leah. Leah was her sister. And then they had the 2 servants, okay? Rachel's servant and Leah's servant. So anyways, she was, she was angry because all the other women had children, so he had sons with all it, but then she finally had one. She had Joseph. She finally had, but she was like so desperate for another child that she actually named her child I want another child, and that's what Joseph means in Hebrew. And then she had Benjamin, and unfortunately for her, she died after she had Benjamin. Okay, she died. The one that he was madly in love with, he lost his wife. He lost her, and Joseph lost his mom. But by that time, Joseph had already been sold into Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, the whole thing by Donny Osmond. Yeah, that's the story of Joseph. And Joseph got sold into slavery, and he wound up going to Egypt, and that's how the Jews wound up in Egypt, And then during that time, Joseph rose in rank, and he became the Pharaoh's right-hand man. He was running everything. He was running the government. He was actually a judge. He was running the food. He was running the whole thing, and the kingdom of Egypt flourished to the point that the Egyptians started getting jealous of the Israelites. And then, 500 years later, they all of a sudden enslaved the Israelites, made them their slaves, and then we get Moses comes onto the scene. Okay, and so, and then you start the book. You go from Genesis to Exodus. Okay, so anyways, but in that story, Joseph had one of these talents, and God gives talents to many people. A lot of times he shows himself through dreams. Like I had that dream with the angel coming to me. Daniel had dreams all the time where the angels would come to him, and also he would see them when he'd just go for a walk. They would show up. And then Daniel actually got really depressed one time because an angel didn't show up for 3 or 4 days, and finally the angel showed up, and Daniel's like, why haven't you shown up? And the angel's like, well, we got a war going on right now, and so we've been busy fighting this war that's going on that you guys can't see. It's a war in the spiritual realm that's going on, and we've been busy, and that's why we haven't paid you a visit, But they don't want you to know the information that I'm going to tell you, and maybe I should make a video about that someday. And then they revealed a whole bunch of stuff to Daniel at that time concerning a bunch of prophecies that was going to happen. A lot of them relate to the book of Revelations. And that book matches up with the one that John wrote in Revelation. So those prophecies both match up. And so it's very interesting to take a look at that, and we're going to know a lot of things. But this is what happens anytime Israel gets attacked. Bad things happen to whoever's doing the attacking. Okay, that's bottom line. And when Israel is attacked on all 4 sides of her border, the whole world is going to suffer, and it's going to suffer the consequences. And you want to know what's going to happen? A giant earthquake is going to hit the world. A giant earthquake, and we are told every single building in the entire world is going to get knocked down. Okay, that's the prophecy that's been revealed when this happens. So when Israel gets attacked on all 4 sides of her border, and I believe the 4 countries that are going to be attacking Israel, it'll be Egypt from the south, Libya from the west, it'll be I forgot the country on the east. And then to the north, it's probably going to be Turkey from the north. Okay, that's going to attack. Or it could be Russia. I don't know. Everybody has mixed feelings about that. I used to think it was Russia, but now, because Turkey was an ally of the United States, and they were an ally of Israel, but now Turkey has been taken over by hardline Muslims, and who are very much against Israel. And so that country is kind of split up into 4 different areas. And the Bible even mentions a prophecy where that one country will go through a civil war, and it'll probably be split into 4, but then they will reunite. Those 4 different areas will reunite to attack Israel, okay, from the north. So that's why I honestly believe it's going to be Turkey, because they're going through a lot of stuff right now, as our history, as we're seeing it unfold right at this moment. And, here's the thing too, the Bible is very clear in the book of Revelation that Israel is a nation. Well, for a long time there, Israel was not a nation, okay? When Caesar came in and wiped out Israel in 70 AD, they didn't become a nation again until after World War II, 1944, okay? When there was a world outcry for the Israelites to have their own nation again and have their land back. And so that happened, and then right away there was a 6-day war because the other nations were like, no, we don't want Israel to exist. We don't want them. They attacked Israel, a 6-day war, but Israel amazingly won. They won the war, and knocked it down, and probably had a lot of help from God, spiritually. That's what happened. And ever since then, yeah. And now you got what's going on now, with Gaza and everything that's going on. And here's the thing. People are like, well, they shouldn't occupy that. That should belong to Palestinians. And, you know what? Israel has, 4 or 5 times they've tried to negotiate land settlements with the Palestinians. And here's the thing. The Palestinians are the ones that have turned down every offer, every peace offering. It's not the Israelites. It's the Palestinians that have turned them down. And so you know what the Palestinians want? They want what Esau wants. They want the birthright. They want the birthright that Jacob deceived his way into getting, but he's got it. God gave it to him and gave him the blessings. And so they have a right to their land. They have a right to exist. God wants it that way. God chose them to have that land. And the people of Palestine are mad. They want it back. Okay? They want it back. They want the birthright. And they don't want Israel to exist at all. And those other nations like Iran and Iraq and all that. Here's another thing. Book of Revelation says that Babylon is going to exist, and Babylon will be the ones that attack. Just like King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon attacked at 586 BC and destroyed the first temple. Okay? It'll happen again. The leader of Babylon will become a great nation again, because Revelation says it by name. What is Babylon? Well, Babylon is Iran and Iraq put together. And what have we seen? Well, we saw the United States attack and destroy the leadership of Iraq, okay? And so eventually there's going to be a movement there, and it's probably occurring right now, where Iran and Iraq are going to merge together. They're going to become a world power, and they are going to become Babylon, and Babylon will come back. Babylon will rise. There's a fact, Tim LaHaye, I think, wrote a book. He's the guy that wrote all the Rapture books, I forgot his series of books. They're actually really good books. But he's got another book called Babylon Rising, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Babylon will rise. The Bible says it's going to happen. And so, and eventually the Israel will be attacked on all 4 sides. And here's the thing, in the end, you don't need to worry about anything. Just don't take the mark of the beast. That's what it tells us. Do not take the mark of the beast, okay? And I'll probably do a video on the mark of the beast, what I think it is. I do believe it's a tattoo that you can wear on your face, head, or whatever, arms, because tattoos are increasingly popular nowadays, so people just don't think about it anymore. They just all get tattoos everywhere. And I'm not saying tattoos are evil. They're not evil. But I believe the mark of the beast will be a tattoo, okay? It's going to have a certain symbol, and we are told once you take that symbol, you will know your name will be taken off the book of life. You will no longer be allowed to be with Jesus and be with God and be, with it filled in the area of love. You will be in the other place of eternal hell, which is a bad, bad place. You don't want to go there. So, and that's why I'm making this video, because you don't want to side against God. If anything, you don't want to. You fear God. What's that bumper sticker? Fear God? Yeah, fear God. And here's the thing, you don't attack his people. You don't do that. You don't side against his people. Yeah, because bad things happen. Okay, when that does, it happens to the world. That earthquake that hits is going to destroy the entire world. We're told in Revelation there'll be no more seas anymore. We will have no more oceans anymore. Okay, it's going to be a disaster. We're told that smoke will fill the skies, and the moon will be blood red, and you won't be able to see any of the stars. In fact, the stars are falling down. There'll probably be asteroids going on too. We're going to get hit by all the trumpets, the trumpet judgments. That's when they come, and it's going to be just like Moses, when all those 10 plagues that came out there, like the locusts and the frogs and the blood, flowing in the rivers, the Nile River and all that. That's exactly what's going to happen again. Yeah, the fires, everything. It's going to be even worse than what happened to the people of Egypt when Moses, warned them. Moses warned them, if you don't set my people free, God's going to curse everybody, And he did. And that is what's happened, because they went up against God and God's people. And that's what happened when you do that. The 10 curses came on them. Well, we got the trumpet judgments are going to come. I think there's 12 of them. So, it's a holy number. It's either 10 or 12. That's the way God works. He works through numbers, Numbers are very important. In fact, that's even how angels apparently contact you, is through numbers. They use numbers all the time. So if you keep seeing like a 1, 2, 3, 4 or something, take note of it. That's probably an angel trying to tell you something, that something good is going to happen, or maybe something bad might happen. I don't know. You gotta pay attention when these numbers pop up all the time. Like maybe you're writing a check and you look at the check number and it says, 333. Take note of that number, and say, find out if something good happened on that day, and then realize that might be if that number keeps popping up all the time, that means you're going to keep getting blessings coming your way, and keep, good things are going to keep happening. Like 777, if you see that number, or 1111, things like that nature. And if you see a number and bad things are happening, then take warning that the angels are probably trying to communicate with you through numbers. Guys, it's all I can tell you is God is real. God is, and angels. I had a dream one time where I met up with a group of angels, and I asked them, "What do you do up in heaven? What do you guys do when you're, And the angels, they were laughing, and they said, "We watch you guys. That's what we do. We're constantly watching you. We're it's like reality television. We can't get enough. And we're talking about you, and we're trying to help you out any way we can, and if we think, we're cheering you on when you do something good, and we cry when bad things happen to you. There's another quote in the Bible that says, when you do something bad to a child, woe to that person that hurts a child, because its guardian angels are watching you, So you got to take these warnings. God is real. Angels are real. It's all real. And you don't go up against people Israel. And so that's all I'm going to tell you guys. That's all I got to say. God, the video lasted forever. If you made it through all this, I'm impressed. I talked way too long about a lot of different things. You probably think I'm crazy. That's okay. That's all right. A lot of, they thought John the Baptist was crazy. That guy was eating locusts, or eating, I know not locusts, but he was eating grasshoppers and honey, and he was running around with a goat jacket on, because that was a sign of in those time periods, that was a sign of repentance. They would actually wear it reversed so that the goat fur would itch your skin, and it was a sign of repentance, like you were repenting. They call it sackcloth. You'd wear the sackcloth to repent. And here's the thing, people. Why do I know what I know? It's because I studied it, and I took the time to study it. And when I studied, I realized, hey, this stuff is true. The history backs it up. The discoveries back it up. And all the stories seem to match up. You know, I'm going to end my video on this note. There was a mystery that was on one of the channels, YouTube channels, about discoveries, you know, Bible discoveries, whatever. And they came across a mystery. There was a town over there in Israel, and they had uncovered this town. They'd done a bunch of digging, and they'd heard rumors this town existed, but they could never find it. And they were, you know, it got covered up in sand, and they had undone the sand, and they found the town. They discovered it. But what was really weird is the discovery, what they found after they found the town. And they found this, like it was like a cave kind of thing, a very elaborate, huge cave. And they were using the cave as a burial thing, so a chamber. So they had all these bodies that were in this cave, and they were trying to figure out. And then they realized there was guard towers, and there was a wall, and there was a gate. And so they realized there was trying to protect something, and they're trying to figure out, why did all these people want to be buried in this one spot? And then they looked at the center of the tomb, and they found this dark like object. It was like just the weirdest object. It looked almost alien, and they couldn't figure out. It was like they touch it, and it was kind of like smooth and everything, but it was totally black, you know, like it looked like obsidian or something. They didn't know exactly what it was. It was marble. They weren't sure, and what they knew, it wasn't marble, but it was kind of like, it had a consistency like that. It was big, and it was heavy, but it was black, and they were like, what the heck is this object? It appeared that everybody wanted to be buried next to this object. And then they did some analysis on it, and they found out it was glass. Okay. And then they realized that the glass was the size, when they started studying the Bible, they found out that the temple had these windows. The first temple that was built by King Solomon, okay, who was the son of David. Okay, David was actually the second king of Israel. David was the conquering king, and then Solomon came in. Solomon was the wise king. He was the wisest king. And then, you know, he was the one that, you know, remember the two women were fighting over the baby, and he had that clever way of figuring out, you know, who the real mom was. And so anyways, and Saul was the first king. Saul was the tall guy. Saul was tall. That's how I remember it. So Saul was the very first king. David was the second one. David was blessed with being, and then of course, after David, you had Solomon, and Solomon was the wise king. He also had 900 wives. He had a wife, you know, with the Queen of Sheba, which is a fantastic story. Maybe I should do a video about that someday. But anyways, they discovered that that glass, after the temple had been destroyed, somebody grabbed. That's why the glass, it was all black and everything. Somebody grabbed that melted black window, and they took it back to their town. So it was an original piece of the very first temple that was built by Solomon. And everybody that was in that town, when they died, they wanted to be buried as close as they could to that object. And that's why. And then they revered this object so much that they built a wall around the town, and they built they had guard shacks, they had guards, they had gates, they had everything, you know. And so and then later on, yeah, the town disappeared off the face of the map. But what's amazing is that it was still that they must have felt it was so important. That's why they had it in the cave area, because they wanted to preserve as much as they could. They wanted to preserve that glass from the first temple and preserve the whole burial way, the way the burial system worked. Fascinating story, fascinating YouTube mystery story, great. But it just goes to show you everything. It backs up proof that the Bible is real, that stories are real, that there was a temple, first temple, there was a second temple, and the Bible says there will be a third temple eventually. How is that third temple going to happen, you ask? Well, I have a suspicion about how it will happen. I believe that the giant earthquake that happens when Israel gets attacked on all four sides of her border, I believe that giant earthquake will knock down the Dome of the Rock, because that's where the tomb. That's, or not the tomb. That's where the temple, the Jewish temple sits. But right now it's occupied by a Muslim mosque. Okay, that mosque will be destroyed, and I believe at that time there'll be a push for peace. Okay, and at that time, Antichrist will be firmly established as the leader of the world, the world leader. He will preside in Babylon, because Babylon will be a nation by that time, and as a world leader, because we are told we'll have a world leader. We are told there will be a world leader. He will establish a world religion. Now, here's where I find it crazy, is that there's a lot of people on the left that support Palestine, and they support the Muslim movement. The Muslim movement does not support abortion, and it does not support LGBT at all. Okay, so and it doesn't support women's rights. So you have a group of people from the left, and they hate their hatred for right-wing thinking and Christianity and everything else. Their hatred has made them so blind they side with an enemy who does not support them at all. And that's the whole irony of everything. And maybe, why our young people are not thinking right. They're being led the wrong way. It's just, but that's the way they're being led. Confusion is the best enemy you can have, when you're told not what other people are thinking, and you're not educated on that. It's just, you're being misled. You're totally being misled, and you're supporting the wrong sides, and that's what's going on right now. We're being led in a bad direction. Our leaders are horrible leaders, okay, and that's what's going on right now. So anyways, I'm just trying to think, was there anything else I wanted to say here? I don't think so. There's DJ. He's probably getting bored. I know you want to go out, don't you, buddy? We got this truck here that's turning around. Yeah, I guess that's all I got to say. Man, 52 minutes I talked. I really talked a long time, but I had some things I wanted to get off my chest. And so I don't know, maybe you found it interesting. Maybe you just, you tuned off halfway into it thinking I'm crazy. That's okay. That's fine. I'm at a point now where I know what's true in my heart. And so hopefully, maybe my goal was, when I made this video, is that I make you think, and I make you sit there and go, because I was a skeptic myself at one time. I wasn't a believer. It took a lot for me to become a believer, but maybe you need to, look at your own lives and sit there and say, yeah, what has God done for me? Is God real? Has he done anything for me? And you might be surprised to find out, oh yeah, I remember that one time where, yeah, God did show up and help me out. Did something for me that I just, brushed off as being lucky or something like that. And or a miracle happened, and you just, that's God's way of being anonymous. So, all right, everybody, peace. That's all I got to say. Wisconsin hugs.